Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Empowering Voices. We have a special guest all the way from United States today, and we want to welcome you. Welcome. We are happy to have you here. We want to start straight away because we have a lot to talk about. I've been around your website. I'm super curious to know more of what you do. But I just want to remind everyone, we always start from one of my t-shirts, one of my quotes or words, and today we have set boundaries. For those of you who are watching as well, this is the t-shirt. As you know, you can find it on my website. But let's not wait longer. Welcome, and please tell us everything from the beginning.
Thank you. So I am Heidi Gruss. I am a licensed psychotherapist here in the small state of Connecticut, up in the northeast corner of the US. I've been working with clients for over 2 decades. And I then went on to create the Transformation Methodology Coaching Program. I realized, especially during the pandemic, working with so many different people who were coming to me with an obvious need, right? There was distress, there was lack of clarity, a lot of
overwhelm, for sure.
Overwhelm, of course, a lot of curiosity too. That was probably my second pick for a word for you. But I work with a lot of leaders and executives, people who have achieved, great success in life, but yet here they were feeling so lost.
Because it is what we see, right? The success and the achievement and everything, but there's a behind the scenes that is what you see.
Yeah, and just being overextended, always working endless hours because they're afraid to slow down because it might sabotage future opportunities for success. And I thought, here are all of these people who obviously are coming to me because they see me as an expert in a clinical field, but they don't really qualify for a clinical diagnosis, right? And so how can I help them? And so I started piecing together all of the different interventions and strategies and tools that I've used with clients in a similar format. And then, of course, with myself, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, I've hit those, walls where you're staring at yourself saying, why don't I feel so happy and fulfilled with what I've done? I need to go inward and clear this up. And that's when I realized that is the biggest pattern to break with people, is to move them away from going to the external to find the answer and to move them internally.
Totally.
And so that's how I created the transformation methodology, and it is magic.
Yeah, for sure. I like this word. I love it, because when you work in the right way on yourself, you really can create magic.
Yeah.
And as you said, we are always thinking of the outside world, especially nowadays, because we are bombarded really constantly from the external world, but we forget that everything starts with us. And in many cases, and I don't know if you notice this, often women especially, but often men, we forget that we are a priority.
Exactly.
So we think we are machines to achieve goals, and we should be happy, but we are not. And as you said, you start wondering why. I'm doing what I want. I'm really working hard, but still I'm not fulfilled.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I don't ever question whether or not my client is working hard. It's just I want to understand why. Why does it take so much effort when you're so naturally brilliant? I also, talking about prioritizing self, as we're talking about boundaries today. We need boundaries in order to prioritize self. I had a client who was asking the question, like, I just don't know how though to prioritize me when I've got all of these other competing priorities, and where do I find the time? And I looked at her and I said, well, what do you do for you now? Like when you start your day, what are the first few things that you do in the day for you? And she's looking at me like a deer in headlights. I said, the first 8 items on my to-do list, and I'll tell you why I write them down, but the first 8 items on my to-do list every morning are just for me. They don't pertain to my household. They're not about my business. They're not about my clients. And she said, and not even your kids either, because I'm a mom.
Yeah, almost shocked.
Yeah. I said, not even
my
kids. It's all just me. And she said, I don't even know if I could list 8 things to do for me. Yeah. Right. And that really speaks to how disconnected we've come, from self, to not even knowing what would feel good. What is it that I need first thing in the morning to really set my day on a path where there is fulfillment, there is connection with self. Because that's part of the reason why there's a lack of fulfillment, is you're just so busy going through the motions, you're not actually connected to the task.
Yeah, exactly. And we are simply exhausted also to feel. I mean, we feel the emotion, we shouldn't talk about positive and negative emotions, but still, I mean, those emotions that make us uncomfortable, like overwhelm, exhaustion, frustration, resentment sometimes. Because if you don't set boundaries, it's the first feeling that you feel. And talking about set boundaries, I discovered them, I have to say, very late in life with the first lockdown. It's, I talk about setting boundaries all the time, and I support women to achieve them, with my business. But I realized I didn't know how to really set boundaries. Then I was forced, because leaving the 4 of us in the house 24 hours a day with the homeschooling, my business, my husband work, and the cooking, the constant cooking, I had to do something. Because there it was either I look after myself in order to then give to others, or we all collapse. Yeah. So sometimes you are forced with but it took me time, because of course I didn't have a guidance like you can be, and you can open the doors to magic to your clients, of course.
Yeah, and I think why it's so difficult to set boundaries is a lot of times the immediate thought is that the boundary is about keeping something else out. Yeah. Right. So it feels like, you're being exclusive, perhaps. But really, I want to introduce a different way of looking at this. The function of a boundary is to help you prioritize what's most important. Think of it as you're kind of creating a shield around something that is so sacred to you. And that's how we have to look at the different things that we need. So we create boundaries around time, right? That's typically one of the biggest complaints I hear from people. I don't have the time to dedicate towards me, my family that I care so much about, my business, whatever it is. I just don't have enough time. But the reality is we all have the same amount of time in a day. It's not like if you're more successful, you get an extra 2 hours to work with.
That would be great. It doesn't work like that.
Right. So it's figuring out now, what tools do you need to better manage your time? Because when you tell me that something is super important to you, but you don't have the time to do it, well, we need to unpack that a little bit. Because think about, when you get the phone call from the school nurse that one of your kids is sick and needs to get picked up, and that is clearly not planned in the day. You've got something else to do at the same time that the nurse phone call comes through. But yet you still figure out, how to
manage it,
rearrange, right? Reprioritize and go and pick up that little loved one who needs their mom or needs their parent, right? So it's not that you don't have the time.
No.
It's why.
Yeah, this is the first excuse, because it's an excuse.
It is an excuse.
Yeah. So this is not the case.
It's not the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where is the reluctance or resistance in using boundaries to create the time? That's when we get into this second layer of, well, if I tell someone no, they might get upset with me.
Yeah, this is the second excuse.
Yeah. And so, okay, let's play that out for a second. They might be disappointed. Have you ever been disappointed before? Of course.
Exactly.
We all have been disappointed. Did you recover? Did you overcome it? Yes. And how long does it take you to get over the disappointment? Really? I mean, even if it's maybe a big deal, which, typically the issues that we're trying to manage, the tasks we're trying to put boundaries around, right? They're small things.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, maybe the person needs to
maybe the most, but normally even less. And normally I think the disappointment comes from the novelty. I mean, because it's something new, we are shocked at the beginning, but in reality, we get used to the change very quickly.
Yeah. So we deal with the person being a little disappointed and we move on. Now let's do the reverse though. You really want to spend that hour building your business. You know that you've got a really important talk coming up that you want to prep for, and your mom calls and she really wants to talk to you. She's got some burning thing to talk to you about, and you're afraid to say, hey mom, can I give you a call in an hour
later? Yeah.
Right? Can I give you a call later? Because you don't want to face the disappointment. So you take the call and you listen to mom's story, and you give her some advice. I love you too. You hang up, and now you've only got 25 minutes left of your hour to do your work.
Oh my gosh.
And you're feeling super stressed. Now you've got to hammer down. Oh my gosh. And the urgency around the task changes the entire experience for you. And when you're done, when you've run out of time, you're not super satisfied with the quality of what you've created. And who are you mad at that moment? Are you mad at mom for calling? Or are you mad at you for taking the call when you knew right off the jump that you really needed this hour to feel fully prepared and ready for that talk you were preparing for?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the resentment piece. People don't realize that. You're really not mad at mom. You're mad at you because there was a cue from inside of you. There was either a physical sensation that you felt, or you just knew, I can't take this call, but oh gosh, if I don't, right? And so you silenced that voice that was coming from inside. You dismissed it, right? And you did the thing that you felt obligated to do. You did the thing that you felt was going to make mom happy instead of what was going to make you happy, what you needed.
That in reality is a way, if we just said, I call you in 1 hour, we would have made happy ourselves and the other person. So it was a win-win situation that we normally don't see. We just see, sometimes we do projects, right? And we can see in 2 years, 5 years. But then when we face the real situation, it seems there's that moment and nothing else in the world. We cannot see that if we balance the two choices we have, because we always have a choice, there's one better than the other, and we tend to choose the worst one at least for ourselves. And it's the same, I mean, either the resentment towards us, or you become so overwhelmed that it happens to me. I start shouting to my children and then I feel guilty. So, I mean, it becomes like ups and downs, and you feel drained at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I created a little freebie for your listeners too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. But when people come to me and they are feeling that, overextended or, exhausted, burned out, we immediately think like, oh, I must need more sleep, or I'm just doing too much throughout my day. It's not, it's the emotional drain. We've depleted so much of our emotional bandwidth on things that aren't even that important to us. And we feel completely depleted and unavailable then to the things that are important to us.
Yeah. And then we have many more consequences. For example, I was thinking, when you start having a lot of pressure emotionally, then your body feels very tired. So you start postponing, for example, the gym. You start eating badly, junk food. And that becomes a habit, and you find yourself tired without achieving any goal, without motivation, without inspiration, and hurting yourself and your physical part, your body. The mental one is already gone a long time ago.
All the vices come back, because you just start numbing that feeling,
Exactly.
So
you need to find a way to do it.
And it just creates more of that vicious cycle. So really, when we're talking about boundaries, and my clients ask me, well, like, where do I start with this? Right? Really, where you start with boundaries is figuring out, what do you need? What is most important to you? And so there's a whole exploratory process that I go through with my clients to start identifying things that almost sound foreign to them in the beginning. When we start talking about things that they want to achieve and why they haven't yet achieved those things, or why their lifestyle doesn't reflect what it is they would have hoped it would by now. Right. We start to uncover a lot of negative patterns, right? A lot of destructive, self-sabotaging, patterns and habits. And through the exploratory exercise, we're able to start talking about values, right? What do you stand for? What's most important to you, right? So, sometimes it's health. Health is really common. Like, my own personal health is so important, because if I'm not healthy, how can I go and help others, or, do the things that are important to me, right? So we take this values exercise that we go through, and then we do an assessment, sort of an audit of, well, how does health show up in your life? Let's look at, how much time do you dedicate towards your health? What are the healthy habits, and it's all the way from actions to thoughts to managing feelings. I want to know all of it. And you know what? Sometimes health doesn't really show up. So
where we dedicate less time, absolutely.
Right.
Because it's something not very evident to us.
Right.
Because it's something happening inside.
Well, we're almost in denial. Right. Where it's like, you say this is so important, but why isn't it? Why can't I see it? So obviously, from my position, right? I should be able to see this.
Exactly.
And so, therein points, a very big breakthrough. What's most important to you really isn't prioritized in your day-to-day life. How would your life be different if you did prioritize health, that you identify as one of your top 4 values?
Because I think sometimes we do this kind of exercise where you say, one day when I'm healthy, when I'm thin or whatever, So we have a vision, a sort of a vision, but we don't realize that we are not doing anything for it.
Right.
So through the process, your clients go with you, they have to see it. Because if on a wheel, you dedicate just a little piece or even nothing to your health, how do you think that the one day will come? That's impossible.
Well, exactly. And so, you know, we're kind of getting into goal setting a little bit, you know, but you know, my high achieving clients, they like goals. They set goals all the time. But when we're talking about goals that are specifically related to us, right? It's like we assign, okay, by September 1st, I want to be doing these things. Okay. And you can, you know, Google, you know, how to set a goal and how to make it measurable and how to set a timeline, right? And work backwards from the goal.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got all these mini steps, which I'll review with people too. But even with all of that knowledge, like, it still doesn't happen. And I have to ask my clients, why? You know, all these little steps that have to be completed to get to the end goal. And the reason why is because they haven't created the time, space, and energy to be able to do those mini steps.
Yeah, right? Because I mean, to know the theory doesn't mean that we put it in practice, so what we know.
Exactly. You know, so whenever you want to do something new, if you don't have a plan as to how you're going to execute that, where are you going to find the time? You're coming to me telling me you're overextended and exhausted and you want to do something else.
Yeah, you want to add something else to your plate.
Yeah, we need to clear out. We need to make space for something else, not just time. We need mental space. Yeah. Right. We need that, you know, that prepping. We need to connect to our goal on a regular basis. You know, we need to feel that because it's thoughts, feelings, and actions that are really going to produce the end result. All of those things have to be aligned.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you need a plan basically, but with, of course, with help it is easier. I mean, you get there quicker, at least, because of course our mind never stops. I can do this, I can do that, and also we have so much information, but sometimes we cannot filter that information. So we try the first shining objects around the corner, and then we try them all, and then you even have the excuse, okay, I tried, I'm a failure, I cannot achieve what I had in mind. Of course, that is not true. It's simply true that we need a professional to guide us, because otherwise we would be, all of us would be coaches or psychotherapists. I mean, you studied for nothing.
Yeah, anybody could do this, right? Yeah. But you know, you just said that is so important, is we learn by doing, right? And so that's the other piece. Sometimes we have to put a boundary on how long we're in that learning space, you know, where we're reading about that thing we want to do, or we're researching, or we're talking about it with other people, right? Have you ever gotten to a point where you can't even hear yourself talk about this anymore? Like, you know, you have to move into action phase. Yes. Yeah. Right. And then you're really going to know, you know, whether or not you can do something, or how you need to refine the process so that you can be more successful. Or, you know, you're not going to figure that out by continuing to just envision and play it out in your mind. Of course not. And I think the most difficult step is actually going from the knowledge to the action, because it's like, I really like studying generally. I mean, to learn new things. I can go on forever. Yeah. Then if that knowledge doesn't become something tangible, something concrete, okay, stays there, but didn't produce anything. So if we are working on ourselves, it's quite sterile to just
stay in this first step. That it is important, of course, you need the base.
Yeah.
But then there's the step, the concrete one, where you have to move from A to B, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had a mentor at one point in my life, I was doing so well with this one initiative, that I was working on. And, she came over and she was congratulating me. And she said, so now how are you going to, leverage this and build upon it in the next 6 months? How are you going to up level, And we were talking about that. And she said, well, are you doing these things? And I said, I'm trying. And she said, trying is lying.
Yeah.
And I was
Tries
so
not enough.
offended at that point in time, right? I was like, what? I am really trying. Like I am, And then it was like 4 years later. And I was thinking about that instance because I think I had another interview and it like jogged my memory. And I thought, oh my gosh, I know exactly why she said trying is lying. Like I get it now. Because think about it. When you tell, even if you tell one of your kids to go do something, right? Like go clean your room, right? I need you to go clean your room. And they're like, I'm trying. And you're like, you're not trying anything. I see you right here, like having a snack, and I need you to go clean your room. Right? So we tell ourselves
so many lies.
I'm doing it, right? But when you're committed, when you're truly committed, you don't say I'm trying. You say,
I'm just right in the middle of the action.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, but I think our mind plays a lot of tricks on us, I have to say, because we really think we are trying all the time. Now, well, the first example that comes to mind is dieting, When you start a diet, I mean, you start every day, you are starting and you are trying because every day you are starting. You are not doing a diet, though. You are not committed. You are not motivated. You are not in the middle of the action because that click didn't happen. And until there's that passage, results won't come. I mean, it will be like the dream of someone else, basically.
It's so funny you bring this up because I love dieting analogies. Everybody can relate to them. Everybody's tried to lose weight at one point in their life, right? And so I described the change process, kind of using a diet as an example, right? Where it's like, you decide, okay, Monday's the day.
Normally it's a Monday.
It's always Monday. It's always Monday. Sunday doesn't count for anything. No. It's like a lost day. We live a 6-day work week or something. So Monday's going to be the day, and you take all of the necessary, steps to plan and prep. And so when Monday comes, you are ready to go. And you know what? The week goes off without a hitch. Every T is crossed, every I is dotted. And you're like feeling like, oh, this is the time. It's going to happen. I am on top of the world. And at the end of week 1, you're like, I did it. I did everything perfectly. Right. Yeah. And then you move into week 2 with that same level of energy and motivation. But right around day 3 or day 4 of week 2, you start to get like the newness wears off. You're a little like, and you're so smart and savvy. You've done this before. There are a few little shortcuts you can take. You can cut a few corners without really sacrificing any of the outcome. Like it's not going to matter if I drink this one extra ice coffee.
Just today.
It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So all these things that you can do. And sure enough, week 2 ends and there isn't any damage noticeably showing up on the scale or on your pants, how they feel or whatever. But see, that shortcut, it did impact the mental process that needs to be in alignment with the thoughts and the actions that you're taking, right? So then week 3 notoriously is the week when life happens. It's like, that's the week when the car breaks down unexpectedly, or that's the week where you're told that, your business presentation got moved to 2 hours away. And then the stomach bug comes and rips through the household and everybody's sick and right. So week 3 happens and it throws you off course because already your mindset is compromised.
Of
And
course.
so the immediate thought is, how am I ever going to keep
Go
up with
back.
my
Yeah.
diet? And I've got all these other things now that I have
Yeah.
to deal with, right?
That
And
require my full attention.
Yeah, 100%. Because if I'm not acting or succeeding at 100%, then I feel like I'm really not doing what I need to be doing, right? And so you kind of take like a little hiatus and you give yourself a break. Sometimes you even resort back to those like comforting things because your week
For a
is
couple
hard,
of days.
remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a really hard week.
Yeah.
So much so that you don't even bother showing up week 4. You
Yeah.
just use week 4 to plan your do-over.
I love this description. I think everyone can see themselves in it. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable how our brain, in the end, we have a fixed pattern. And although we know, we still fall for it.
But it's devastating to me because if you repeat that month after month after month, 12 months, you're at the end of the year, you're at exactly the same place.
Yeah. If not worse. Because then when you start thinking that you should do something, you do exactly the opposite because it's always a one-off, but it's never one-off.
Well, and you start having all of these negative feelings towards yourself. Sometimes you even build a belief that I can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? There's something wrong with me, when really it's not. You just have to refine the approach and you have to strengthen the mindset. Because if your mindset is not strong, life, I tell people, the only time life flatlines, if you're looking for this.
Yeah, exactly. There's only one thing where there's no solution. We all know, of course, but we tell ourselves lies.
We do.
Yeah, all the time. And the diet is the classic example.
But we do that same 4-week pattern. We do with everything. I mean, think about, for the longest time, I knew I needed to hire assistants in my business. Like I couldn't do it all anymore, and I don't know. It was probably at least 6 months that I was like trying to figure out a way where I could just keep doing it, or, not hire 3 assistants, just do 1, or, whatever it was, and I'm like, how many times am I going to go through this? Like, what is the big deal? Is this a pride thing? Is this what is it that why I don't want to just go and change really jump in and do this?
Yeah, but we stop ourselves. As you said it earlier, we self-sabotage ourselves all the time. All the time. Private and professional life, there's no difference, to be honest.
No, because how we manage those unpredictable circumstances in one area of our life is how we manage them in other areas. Yeah. Right? As sophisticated as we are as human beings, we're really not that sophisticated
at all. But that doesn't mean there is hope out there. Because I don't want that the message we are giving is that, unfortunately, there's this pattern, we are all wrong, and we will keep failing. No, because we know that it's possible. We just need to find the right help.
Yeah.
And convince ourselves that we need help, first of all.
We need to know that we need help, right? And then typically we need someone else to help us figure out what kind of help we need even, right? Because think of these barriers, these roadblocks, they're like blind spots, it's like things that you can't see. Now, I had a therapist tell me once in my life, she's like, as soon as we lifted that shade, it's like you could never unsee it. And it's absolutely true. But we need the objectivity. We need the coach, the mentor, the therapist, to help lift the shade so we can see the blind spot.
Yeah, because you are completely immersed into it. I mean, you cannot see it. You cannot step out of yourself. So that's why you need an objective opinion from someone who has knowledge. Again, I mean, I just want to remind everyone that you also have a background as a psychotherapist.
Right.
And then you applied also your studies to your career as a coach. And the combination of the two, of course, helps you to go even more in depth. Because, of course, the coach guides you and together you get somewhere. But then you have the psychotherapy that sees something behind that.
And I do think it matters. And I'll tell you why. You know, if we go back to that diet example, right? Well, most people who have tried to lose weight have actually lost weight. They have. The question is, can you maintain that weight loss? And
that's the worst part.
That's the worst part. And so why this is important to talk about is because losing the weight is the surface problem, right? That's just what's on the surface. The reasons why you can't maintain it, if those get resolved, you've created deep level change. That is transformation. That's why my program is called the transformation methodology, not, the new habit methodology.
Yeah. Not the the quick problem methodology. Yeah,
exactly. So this isn't about finding the Band-Aid, right? Yeah. This is about really identifying what caused the wound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, without psychotherapy, it would be a bit more difficult, of course. There you can definitely go more in depth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. In fact, I wanted to ask you the combination of the two. Sometimes it's a bit, you feel it's quite natural to go from psychotherapy towards coaching. Not all the coaches have this background, of course, but it depends also what is your area of expertise and stuff. Why did you feel, when did you feel that you would have liked to do this passage?
Meaning like transitioning into coaching?
Well, in reality, yeah. Yes, although you took with you your background, you didn't cancel, deleted all your information.
Yeah, so I still provide clinical care. I do have clients who are seeking my expertise with clinical care, and clinical is different from coaching. Clinical, we're focused on, reducing symptoms specific to a particular clinical diagnosis, right? With coaching, we're really focused on working through an identified problem, right? It's not a clinical diagnosis.
Yeah.
But here's where my background is so helpful, is that number one, I'm not afraid of feelings, right? So where a lot of people, are afraid of offending or shaming or making their clients feel uncomfortable. Well, I know my clients are already uncomfortable, right? My clients are already feeling ashamed. That's why they're coming to me for help.
Yeah.
They finally found the courage to come to me. So I'm not afraid of any of those, feelings or the process, not intimidated by it, because I've had all of these years, where I know that everyone's going to be okay, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions that are necessary questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I like this approach, because sometimes otherwise you stay on the surface and again, you fix the symptoms, but not the cause.
Right. And I also know that when my client first shows up to me, number one, they admit that they've been thinking about calling or getting in touch with me for several months, if not years, before they've actually called, right? So they've been living in this distress for a long time. But I also know that what they initially present is not the real problem, right? So it's like, okay, I get it. You wish that you were 20 pounds lighter, but really, why is this so important? Who will you be 20 pounds lighter? What will that allow you to do? What is it costing you right now to stay 20 pounds heavier, right? And it's not about you can't wear certain clothes. I mean, of course, that might be an answer, but it's, I don't show up at all of my kids' activities because I think my kids are embarrassed when I, show up there and I'm heavier or I don't look like all the other moms. I don't want to embarrass my kid. I mean, that's the pain, right? And that's why when I
that
say
has to be addressed, not only the 20 pounds. I mean, those will come after.
Well, because that's the meaning. That's the ache, right? And so if it just becomes about fitting into a pair of pants, you could just buy another size and fit into the pants.
And also it's not a strong leverage to work on. I mean, why do you want to lose weight or to use those trousers? Really? I can wait another week. I can wait another year. While something stronger pushes you towards having motivation and the famous click to make changes.
But it also represents here, right? She's just told me that there's a whole other set of problems of, well, how do you feel about your role as mom?
Yeah.
Right? And so when there is a question around, am I enough as mom?
Well, there's something much, much bigger here.
Do you see? See? Because then once we unpack all that, how do you make yourself feel better about who you are as mom? Right? Because we do things to comfort ourselves. It doesn't mean they're healthy for us.
Yeah.
Right? So if we can resolve the issue around you being enough as mom, strengthen that bond between you and your young child, right? Where there's now conviction there. You're enough for your child. Then maybe you're not.
So maybe they come to you and say, I need to lose weight. And then you start talking about the bond with the children. That is a completely different subject. So say, did you lose weight? Yeah, we are talking about to strengthen the bond with my son. But that is the real work.
It is the real work. And we do address the habits and the behaviors that need to support the end goal too. But what's fascinating to me is hearing my clients say like this, like, you don't want me to like send you a food journal, or we don't want, it's like, do you need to send me that? No, I ate. I didn't eat. I wasn't even like compelled to overeat, or I didn't feel, because it all changes. There is such an ease and flow with the process, because see, what we did was we eliminated the distress, right? Where you were out of alignment with yourself, because we identified the real issue. And it's not, I hope everyone can transfer this one story to another,
of course, it works for any other issue and uncomfortable feeling we can feel. Of course, it's not dieting only. That is just a common problem. But as you said, I mean, also high achiever people, they still have something to solve because they don't feel fulfilled, but they feel overwhelmed and frustrated. So the same lesson can apply to that other field.
Across the board, whether, I make all this money every year, but I don't have any money in my savings account. Okay, that's, same thing. Or I've got all this money, but I don't have any time to spend it. So across the board, we can apply these principles. But it's not just about money management. It's not just about how to learn to save or pay yourself first.
It goes much deeper than that.
You have to go deeper. Otherwise, you're going to come back and have the same problem 6 months later, a year later, whatever.
That's great. So I always ask my guests if there's a word or a quote that you really like and you think it's a bit of a guidance for you.
Yeah, you know what? I will tell you. So it's this. The full quote that so Jim Fortin said this, but I don't know that he's the original person to say this. I don't know. But it was 70% perfection is success, 100% perfection is failure. Right. And so I love it.
Yes.
I keep the 70% perfection is success on a post-it. And I say this all the time to clients. But sometimes when I say that quote, clients kind of look at me, they're so confused and they have to repeat it a couple times. 70% perfection is success. 100% perfection is failure. And they're like, I don't get it. Right. And I'm like, well, you tell me, right? When does perfection exist? 100% perfection. Have you ever
that would be, especially for, I'm a perfectionist on the path to recovery. And so this quote applies to me a lot.
Yeah.
Because we all think that there's this dream out there. And always on ourselves, right? So the expectations on ourselves are 100% impossible.
Right.
All the time. Yeah.
Right. So, in the end, it's never going to be perfect. Even when you're so proud of something, you're going to go back and find something wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's usually it's that we just need something to be done at that given point in time. 70% effort, you're so brilliant. 70% of your brilliance is enough.
Yeah, more than enough.
More than enough.
I mean, if you want to consider the average, it's not that much.
Well, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm glad I found that helpful.
So you were mentioning that there's a freebie for our listeners. We will find all the links, of course, below the post on website, YouTube, and all the platforms we use for the podcast as well. So there's no way to miss all the information. And thanks a lot for this kind offer. I'm sure many women found themselves in your words, and so I hope someone will take this courage and reach out to you to have this so much needed help sometimes that can be life-changing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you again. And I leave you for now. And don't forget to check all the information for Heidi Gruss under our episodes. Bye, everyone.